Hello, Morongo Basin, and listeners around the world online at Z107.7 FM.com. Here is the Z107.7 Local News for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. The suspect in the Yucca Valley hit-and-run that killed teenager Joshua Barreras was in court yesterday. Online news editor Robert Hayden was there and brings us this update on the trial of Troy Reynolds.
The suspect in a hit-and-run that resulted in the death of a Yucca Valley teenager was in court this morning for an early disposition hearing. Troy Reynolds is accused of leaving the scene of a suspected collision on Highway 62 that claimed the life of 16-year-old Joshua Barreras. The victim was found unresponsive in the center median of 29 Palms Highway on January 26th of this year and was pronounced dead later at the hospital that night. The suspect's vehicle was discovered by sheriff's deputies at a repair shop in a neighboring county. Troy Reynolds' representation called into the hearing on Tuesday morning asking for a continuance based on needing more time for discovery, which is the formal process where both prosecution and defense exchange evidence before the trial. Judge Sarah Oliver granted the continuation, informing the courtroom that July 24th is the next date set in the trial. Before the continuation was granted, Judge Oliver stated to the nearly packed courtroom that both supporters and protesters are welcome in the court. Reporting for Z107.7 News, I'm Robert Hayden.
Yesterday morning in San Bernardino, county supervisors held an extended public hearing and then approved a $9.8 billion county budget. In an afternoon session, the board took up the issue of local housing and short-term vacation rentals. Reporter Mike Lipsitz has been following the issue and files this report.
County supervisors heard the results of a state-mandated study of housing in the unincorporated communities. The study showed what many here already know. The Joshua Tree, where a third of the homes are occupied by short-term rentals, is disproportionately affected by those rentals compared to other parts of the county. The study is a condition of approval of the housing element of the general plan. Although charged with easing the scarcity of affordable housing here, Land Use Services does not recommend imposing any limits on STRs, but instead is advising the board to incentivize affordable housing with a number of options, such as introducing a short-term rental buyout program, developing new income-restricted housing, promoting the use of manufactured homes and accessory dwelling units, and enhancing ownership and rental assistance initiatives. Reporting for Z107.7 News, this is Mike Lipsitz.
At last night's meeting, the 29 Palms City Council honored outgoing interim city manager Larry Bowden before it headed into discussions of proposed budget updates and revisions. Reporter Hillary Sloan files this report.
After the presentations, Item 9 of the consent calendar was modified. The Events Ad Hoc Committee is awarding an additional $5,000 to Dine 29, making a total of $7,000, a correction of $500 less to the written consent calendar. Item 12 of the public hearings was received and approved for 2024-2025, including amendments to the city's master fee schedule and proposed budget revisions for the Capital Projects Fund, Special Revenue Funds, and the Successor Agency Fund. The Project Phoenix funding was approved separately. The city has a total of $240,000 left from the $2.3 million allocated from the general fund for the Phoenix project. The council adopted new fees for buildings, parks, and recreation departments and approved road repairs, safety improvements, and vehicle purchases. It also approved transferring $70,000 from the general fund to the sewer fund. Eli Marshall, Director of Information Services, presented an update on the solid waste and recycling program. Marshall said the commercial rollout is complete and they are initiating a residential rollout. City Manager James concluded the meeting by saying that the number of vacation rental properties was declining and that permits were not being renewed. For detailed information from the meeting, see this story at Z107.7 FM.com. For Z107.7, this is reporter Hillary Sloan.
The Yucca Valley Planning Commission voted to ease the ground disturbing policy. Here is reporter Adeline J. Wells with more on what that means and the rest of last night's meeting.
The Yucca Valley Planning Commission considered the ground disturbing permit policy. Since 2022, the town's policy has stated that all ground disturbing projects requiring a building permit must submit both a native plant permit and a desert native plant specialist report, which can be costly in both finances and time. Town staff presented changes that would allow applicants to bypass the latter report if they submit photographic evidence that there are not any western Joshua trees within 150 feet of the project. Henry Morales, owner of High Desert Plumbing, spoke during the public comment period about challenges presented by trying to pull necessary permits and having to wait lengthy times for emergency repairs.
Again, I'm a local plumbing contractor that's simply trying to keep his employees busy and working. I have long-standing customers that I'm trying to maintain and attempt to stay above board by pulling permits. I'm hoping you can consider the process we are having to go through.
The state's Fish and Wildlife Department will release a draft report on July 1st that details potential guidelines for this matter. The commission voted to pass the town staff's changes in the meantime and lower the threshold to 75 feet. They will revisit the regulation as guidelines from the state develop. The Planning Commission also continued their conversation from the May 7th meeting regarding parameters for mobile food vendors and vending vehicles. Town staff presented potential regulations for various types of vendors, including vehicles in parks and on public streets, vendors in the public right-of-way, at events, and on private property. The commissioners were pleased with the report and showed notable interest in developing food truck-specific areas and events in town. The commission received and filed the report for future review. Reporting for Z107.7, this is Adeline J. Wells.
The Morongo Unified School District Board of Trustees held their regular meeting last night. Reporter Gabriel Hart was in attendance and has this recap for us today.
With their proposed budget and fund balance study session going overtime 20 minutes into the scheduled regular meeting, the study showed projected decrease in 40 students in the district and a gradual decrease in funded ADA, but is expected to correct in the 2025-26 school year. Various factors are attributed to this decrease, including stagflation, the perfect storm of slow growth, high unemployment, and the rising cost of living, and the continual path of correction from the pandemic. Assistant Superintendent Sharon Flores said the district is currently at 90% attendance rate, down 3% since pre-pandemic. Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services Amy Woods called for the board support for Unified Champions PE and Unified Champions Leadership, two new courses related to the California Special Olympics Woods says are applying for the Golden Bell Award. Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources Stacy Smallings introduced two new MUSD faculty to the board, Yucca Valley High School Principal Deanna Skinta and Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education Gracie Gutierrez. The board approved the SELPA Local Plan Annual Budget and Service Plan, as well as Resolution 2422 Order of Election, which orders a school district election for board members whose terms expire December 13th, 2024. On that note, after 6 years of service on the board, Board Clerk Carrie Conley announced she will not be seeking another term, and says she hopes she'll be remembered for her commitment to school safety. One notable change to the structure of the agendas moving forward: items for review are now broken into Section A, First Read and Review, and B, Second Read Review, after board members expressed disapproval on meetings' tendency to speed through the items without proper time allotted to digest the content. Reporting for Z107.7, this is Gabriel Hart.
The Yucca Valley Airport District Board of Directors meets in regular session tonight, where they will discuss access fees and gate access card applications. The board will also receive an update from the airport manager and continue their discussion regarding consolidating bank accounts. The board meets tonight at 6:30 p.m. at the Yucca Valley Community Center. And finally, the Copper Mountain College Board of Trustees meets in regular session tomorrow afternoon. The board will consider their latest Star Award recipient, Kim Martin, and will recommend granting faculty member Kathy Ittinger the title of Professor Emeritus. The board will consider updating the college's policy on serving alcoholic drinks on district property to allow the culinary department more flexibility during instruction and sponsored meals. They will also consider employee benefits, student safety, and a number of other business related to upcoming sessions. The meeting begins tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the CMC's Bell Center Community Room, located at 6162 Rotary Way in Joshua Tree. That's our local news. Hear local news 7 times a day, 7 days a week at 7, 8, 9, noon, 4, 5, and 6. If you hear about news happening, let us know. Email us at tips@z1077fm.com. Reporting for the Morongo Basin News Leader, the award-winning Z107.7 Local News, I'm Jeff Harmetz.